A military helicopter slices through the frigid night sky on a covert mission. On board is the Aldemir Republic's legendary special unit, known only as Ghost. They are the world's most elite soldiers, a force feared by all their adversaries. Yet, even among these titans, one man was revered as the strongest of them all. His name was George Sy, a soldier who looked at home surrounded by fire and chaos. He was a peerless combatant, moving through battle with deadly precision. Enemies fell before him, and his name was spoken with a mixture of awe and terror. This legendary warrior was simply known to the world as Mr. War. But on July 6, 2025, the legend story took a sudden, dark turn. The invincible Mr. War, the strongest man alive, was finally taken down in action. The mission began at 2 a.m., an all-out assault on a fortified terrorist headquarters. But a violent storm immediately complicated things, threatening the helicopter's stability. The pilot urged Captain Beck to change the drop zone, fearing they'd lose the element of surprise. Beck grimly weighed the high risk to his squad, but ultimately ordered the mission to proceed as planned. In a stunning act of defiance, George Sy took matters into his own hands, preparing to descend alone. He coolly told his captain he was going in first and that the team should follow from a safer location. The captain could only shout in protest as his best soldier went rogue. Unfazed, Mr. War rappelled down into the chaos, a lone figure against the stormy sky. He landed with perfect form, weapon at the ready, a silent storm about to break. His eyes, cold and focused, scanned the enemy territory, ready for the battle to begin. Above, Captain Beck furiously demands they go back for George, but the pilot insists it's impossible. Defeated, the captain orders the team to Point B, his thoughts consumed with worry for his lone soldier. As the helicopter flies away, Beck sends a silent prayer for Mr. War to survive the impossible odds. On the ground, George sprints across the open courtyard, a lone warrior charging into the fortress. His focus is absolute, but a glint of light from the rooftop signals he's been spotted. A hidden sniper takes the shot, intending to eliminate the intruder with a single decisive bullet. George's eyes narrow as his combat instincts scream, sensing the lethal attack just in time. He dodges with lightning speed, the bullet shattering a stone gargoyle right where he'd been. Another shot zips past, impacting the wall he uses for cover as he continues his advance. Without missing a beat, George returns fire, his assault rifle blazing as he closes in on the enemy. His precise shot finds its mark, instantly neutralizing the rooftop threat. The silent sniper plummets from the building, a grim warning to the others. Unfazed, George lowers his rifle, a ghost of a smirk playing on his lips. But another soldier gets the drop on him, demanding his surrender at gunpoint. Feigning compliance, Mr. War explodes into motion, disarming his captor with a vicious elbow strike. A powerful leg sweep sends the man stumbling, completely breaking his stance. He flows seamlessly into the next engagement, taking on 2 more guards in close-quarters combat. With brutal efficiency, he dispatches one of them, his focus already on the next target. Now armed with a heavier weapon, he kneels, sensing the arrival of more reinforcements. Just as he predicted, a squad of enemies emerges, unleashing a torrent of gunfire in his direction. With lightning reflexes, he turns an enemy into a human shield, absorbing the volley of bullets. He discards his temporary shield, wryly noting the enemy's aggressive welcome. His focus sharpens as he prepares to continue his one-man assault. Peering through his scope, he acquires 3 new targets in a single frame. With deadly precision, he neutralizes the entire squad before they can react. Just as the smoke clears, his captain's urgent voice breaks through on his radio, demanding a status report. The captain's hand tightens on his radio, repeating his desperate plea for a response. He remains silent, pressing forward toward a massive set of doors, leaving chaos in his wake. Back at the designated rally point, Captain Beck anxiously awaits news from his rogue soldier. His subordinate reports their readiness, but the captain can only confirm the grim silence on George's channel. Captain Beck seethes with frustration, convinced his best soldier has a death wish. Meanwhile, George stands before the imposing main doors of the terrorist stronghold. Back at the rally point, the rest of the Ghost unit finally begins their own assault. Each soldier moves with practiced precision, their focus unwavering as they sweep the area. Inside, a squad leader confirms the mansion is secure and assigns his team to gather intel. Captain Beck breathes a heavy sigh of relief, the immediate danger to his team having passed. But the path George carved is a grim reminder of his brutal one-man war. His own teammates can only stare at the aftermath, acknowledging his monstrous combat prowess. As George and the captain walk away from the scene, a squad mate calls out to the lone wolf. Beck furiously confronts George for his insubordination, but the soldier insists the successful mission is all that matters. George calmly explains that his actions saved the entire unit from certain annihilation. The captain seethes, unable to accept his subordinate's justification for going rogue. Their heated exchange is cut short when another soldier reports a summons from the commander-in-chief. As the captain walks away, still fuming, George prepares to clarify his true intentions. He insists his actions were not rebellion, but a calculated move to ensure victory and repay a debt. His cold gaze reveals an unwavering focus, driven solely by the mission's objective. Captain Beck pauses, his expression softening slightly as he considers the weight of George's words. With a final, exasperated sigh, the captain turns away, his frustration with the lone wolf palpable. Before departing for headquarters, the captain unexpectedly places George in charge of the remaining squad. George watches the vehicle depart, stunned by the sudden and unexpected transfer of command. George turns to his squad, ready to issue his first command as their new leader. In a shocking turn, his own teammates surround him, their weapons raised in a clear act of mutiny. The lead soldier confirms the unthinkable, stating the order to eliminate him comes directly from Captain Beck. Disbelief flashes across George's face as the weight of this ultimate betrayal begins to sink in. In a moment of stunned hesitation, his weapon slips from his grasp, leaving him defenseless. The command is given, and a single decisive shot ends the standoff before it can begin. The squad unleashes a merciless barrage, ensuring the world's strongest soldier has no chance of survival. A sinister smile from one of the soldiers suggests this betrayal was a long time coming. In his final moments, George realizes the horrifying truth. This entire mission was a setup for his execution. His consciousness fades, filled with the memory of a solemn promise to a woman to return home alive. His final thought is of Sophia, the woman he promised he would return to. But instead of oblivion, his eyes flutter open to a strange, rhythmic beeping. He is immediately assaulted by a grotesque sight and the overwhelming stench of decay. Reborn in a bandaged body, he finds himself standing atop a mountain of corpses, utterly disoriented. His confusion is cut short by the roar of heavy machinery as a massive dump truck looms above. The truck unloads its grim cargo, sending a cascade of more bodies tumbling down upon him. The unstable pile beneath him gives way, threatening to drag him into the abyss. He loses his footing and plummets, reaching out desperately for a handhold. With a surge of adrenaline, his bandaged fingers find purchase on a narrow, rocky ledge. He clings on for dear life, his gaze steely as the dead fall past him into the chasm below. He hauls himself onto the cliff's edge, his single visible eye burning with defiance. Safely on solid ground, he catches his breath, acknowledging the close call he just survived. His gaze falls upon the grim sight of floating remains, the stench of decay filling the air. Vultures circle overhead, confirming his suspicion that this is some kind of macabre dumping ground. In the departing truck, two men casually discuss their grim work, treating the bodies as mere trash. The mention of Tokyo Bay sends a jolt through him as the horrifying truth of his location dawns. As the bandages fall away, he confirms his location with a look of grim certainty. Japan. He stands before the ocean, realizing he has somehow returned to his homeland on the very day he died. The narrative confirms it. George Sai died only to be reborn on this island of despair. Standing atop the cliff, he surveys the desolate island, questioning the nature of this strange new reality. He grapples with the impossible fact that he was in the Middle East, but is now somehow in Japan. His mind races, trying to piece together the clues to this bewildering situation. He surveys the grim, trash-filled island, his eyes locking onto the distant truck. A sudden realization hits him. That truck is his only link to the outside world. With a new objective, he breaks into a sprint, determined to catch his only lead. He tears through the dense forest, pushing his unfamiliar body to its limits. As he runs, he's forced to push through a wave of unexpected exhaustion. He stumbles to a halt, gasping for air, shocked by his body's sudden weakness. A dreadful thought crosses his mind as he questions what has happened to his once invincible physique. Looking down at his patched-up form, he realizes this is not the body of the legendary Mr. War. With the truck gone, his soldier instincts kick in, and he prioritizes securing food and water. His survival training immediately pays off as he extracts precious water from a jungle vine. Perched high in a tree, he rehydrates and uses the vantage point to get a lay of the land. The unfamiliar landscape reminds him of a past jungle mission, but his focus shifts to a sprawling shantytown in the distance. His sharp eyes narrow, sensing something unusual about the settlement below. He observes the makeshift buildings and chaotic wiring, confirming it's a massive, impoverished slum. He cautiously navigates the squalid streets, the grim reality of the slum surrounding him. A vendor handling fly-covered meat reinforces his horrifying realization that he's near Tokyo Bay. He stops abruptly, the trash-strewn ground beneath his worn shoes adding to his confusion. The scene defies all logic. A slum of this scale simply shouldn't exist anywhere in modern Japan. His mind struggles to reconcile the impossible sight before him. His eyes lock onto a discarded, cracked mirror, a flicker of curiosity on his face. He stares into the shards, catching a glimpse of an unfamiliar face looking back. The face in the mirror is not his own, a young man's features replacing the battle-hardened visage of Mr. War. A cold dread washes over him as he confirms this isn't his body at all. His thoughts are shattered as a boy suddenly embraces him, shouting a name he doesn't recognize. Instantly, his soldier's instincts take over, his eyes narrowing with cold analysis. The boy Masa pleads with him, but the man he calls Michio shows no sign of recognition. He internally questions the boy's connection to this body while simultaneously assessing him for any potential threat. With a firm grip, he seizes the boy, his piercing stare silently demanding an explanation. He processes the new name, Michio, realizing it belongs to this body. The boy recoils, explaining he was just calling out to his friend, while Michio interrogates him. Realizing his overreaction, Michio apologizes and offers the boy a hand. His bandaged hand firmly grips the boy's, pulling him to his feet. The boy, Masa, expresses his relief, revealing that Michio had been badly beaten recently. This new information startles Michio, who questions the reason for the assault. Masa explains that in this mining area, the word of a man named Zeha is law. Suddenly, a menacing figure looms over Masa, having overheard his name being spoken. Michio instinctively steps in front of the terrified boy, shielding him from the approaching threat. The imposing man Zeha cracks his knuckles, enraged that a mere miner dared to speak his name so casually. Zeha lunges forward, declaring it's time to deliver a penalty for the boy's disrespect. Without hesitation, he lands a brutal punch, sending the smaller boy flying. Masa cries out in pain as he's knocked across the filthy ground. Zeha sneers, questioning if the boy is stupid enough to forget the rules of this place. He grabs the terrified boy by the hair, explaining that any annoyance results in a harsh punishment. The boy tries to protest, but Zeha violently reminds him of his place. Desperate, Masa points to Michio, claiming he was the one who spoke Zeha's name so casually. Michio calmly takes the blame, admitting he was influenced by the boy's actions. Zeha's attention now shifts completely, his menacing gaze locking onto Michio. He expresses surprise that Michio is even standing after the severe beating he previously received. Zeha is taken aback by the cold, defiant stare he receives from Michio. He questions the look in the young man's eyes, a stark contrast to the fear he usually inspires. With a sinister grin, Zeha decides that Michio clearly hasn't learned his lesson from their last encounter. But Michio remains completely unfazed, his expression a mask of cold, analytical calm. Enraged by this unexpected defiance, Zeha leans in, promising to wipe the smirk off his face. He throws a wild punch, but to the legendary soldier, the telegraphed attack is laughably obvious. Michio's combat instincts instantly identify Zeha as a complete amateur, all brute force and no technique. The soldier has no desire to fight a civilian, but he makes it clear he won't hesitate if provoked. His eyes narrow with lethal intent, preparing to end the confrontation decisively. As Zeha roars and swings again, Michio effortlessly evades the clumsy blow. He counters with a devastating elbow, connecting with brutal precision. The brute's face contorts in shock and pain, the blow rattling him to his core. Shaking off the hit, Zeha's rage intensifies, his body glowing with a menacing red aura. His eyes burn with pure hatred as he silently vows revenge for the humiliation. Michio assesses his fist, surprised that his perfectly executed counter wasn't enough to end the fight. Despite the body's weakness, he presses the attack, lunging forward to exploit the opening. Zeha retaliates with a furious swing, but Michio effortlessly slips under the telegraphed blow. Pivoting on his heel, he shifts his weight, preparing to channel all of this body's limited power. He drives a powerful palm strike upwards, aiming for a decisive blow to his opponent's jaw. The strike connects with stunning force, snapping the larger man's head back violently. Zeha's face contorts as the powerful strike sends him reeling backward. He clutches his jaw in disbelief, refusing to accept that this scrawny kid could hurt him. Michio coldly warns him to back off, implying a death wish if he continues the fight. The legendary soldier stands ready, unimpressed as the slum's top dog kneels before him. Zeha's shock quickly boils over into pure rage, furious at being underestimated. Deciding to end this, he pulls a knife, promising a severe punishment for Michio's defiance. He lunges forward with a wild, telegraphed stab, but Michio remains utterly unfazed. Just as the blade nears, a small foot suddenly kicks out, attempting to intervene. The boy, Masa, bravely tries to deflect the attack, shouting a desperate warning to Michio. Enraged by the interruption, Zeha brutally swats the boy aside like an insect. Zeha's rage boils over as he renews his knife attack with lethal intent. But Michio's expression hardens, the soldier within him fully awakened by the threat. He moves with blinding speed, intercepting the blade before it can find its mark. His bandaged hand clamps down on Zeha's wrist, halting the attack with shocking strength. Michio's cold gaze locks onto the thug, informing him of the grave mistake he's just made. With eyes glowing with a chilling light, he implies that pulling a knife means accepting the ultimate consequence. Before Zeha can react, Michio unleashes a swift, precise chop. The strike shatters Zeha's grip, sending the knife flying from his hand. He follows through with a powerful spinning kick that sends the slum's top dog flying. Masa can only stare in utter disbelief, his perception of Michio completely shattered. Zeha sputters on the ground, the force of the kick having knocked the wind out of him. He looks up in utter disbelief, his mind struggling to process his sudden defeat. Before Zeha can recover, Michio is on him, pinning him down and preparing a finishing blow. The Slum King's bravado shatters, and he desperately pleads for Michio to stop. But Michio's glowing eyes show no mercy. For a soldier, a fight to the death has no pauses. He delivers a final, devastating punch, ending the confrontation with brutal finality. Masa watches the scene unfold, completely stunned by the sheer power on display. Michio examines his bloodied knuckles, a hint of a satisfied smirk on his lips. Zeha is left completely incapacitated, a testament to the soldier's overwhelming skill. Yet Michio is inwardly frustrated, realizing even that powerful blow was limited by this body's weakness. He clenches his fist, realizing his first priority is to overcome the weakness of this new body. The boy stares in disbelief, his perception of Michio completely altered by the sudden display of power. A sudden gasp escapes him as he tries to process the impossible scene he just witnessed. He shouts in confusion as Michio turns his back on the defeated thug, demanding to know what's going on. Michio's gaze remains cold and analytical, completely ignoring the boy's frantic outburst. The boy desperately questions what happened to his friend, unable to reconcile this new, ruthless version of Michio. Deciding on a new tactic, Michio turns to the boy, preparing to offer a simple, if untrue, explanation. He calmly claims to have amnesia, a convenient lie that leaves the young boy utterly speechless. The boy, Kyo, frantically tries to jog his memory, reintroducing himself as his next-door neighbor. Looking down at the stunned boy, Michio coldly states he doesn't remember him at all, solidifying his new detached identity. The boy chases after him, stunned that Michio would forget him, while the defeated Zeha glares from the ground. Unseen by the others, Zeha's eyes burn with a furious red glow as he silently vows a brutal retribution. The boy, now in awe of Michio's strength, excitedly begs to be taught how to fight. Michio brushes off the request, instead demanding information about their location, forcing the boy to comply. He explains they are on an industrial waste island in Tokyo Bay, a massive garbage heap teeming with filth. The soldier's mind races, finding it impossible that a place so lawless could exist within modern Japan. Kyo continues, revealing that the men on the island are forced into grueling labor in the mines. Meanwhile, the women and children are left to survive by scavenging or selling what little they can find. The boy confirms the security situation is as dire as it looks, calling the island a giant toilet pit. Michio grimly assesses the scene, concluding that this place is even worse than the war zones he's fought in. Kyo's eyes lock onto a stall displaying what passes for a feast in the desolate slum. The boy can't help but drool, his hunger palpable as Michio watches from behind. The gruff vendor shoos the boy away, callously assuming he has no money to spend. But Kyo defiantly grabs Michio's arm, ready to prove the man wrong. Michio steps in, placing a crisp bill on the counter and calmly requesting a loaf of bread. The stunned vendor makes the trade, while Kyo looks on in disbelief at the generous act. Kyo joyfully clutches the bread as Michio explains its payment for the earlier information. The boy's gratitude is cut short by curiosity, asking where Michio suddenly found the cash. A flashback reveals he took it from the defeated Zeha, explaining that survival here requires a different set of rules. Kyo stares at his friend, his perception of the new Michio shifting once again. The boy looks up at him, remarking that he seems like a completely different person now. Kyo excitedly runs towards his shanty home, announcing his arrival to the entire slum. He proudly presents the bread to his mother, explaining Michio's generosity has provided them with a feast. Touched by the gesture, the mother kindly invites Michio to share the meal with them. The boy quickly lies, theatrically clutching his stomach and claiming he has already eaten. Kyo insists that Michio eat the bread instead, telling him he needs to keep up his strength. Michio's expression darkens as he realizes the boy is sacrificing his own meal for him. A fierce, new resolve ignites in his glowing eyes, fueled by the boy's selfless act. In a sudden burst of frustration at his own weakness, he slams his fist into a nearby wall. Kyo stares in utter shock, completely bewildered by his friend's intense reaction. Michio suddenly throws his weight against the door, trying to barricade them inside. Their moment of confusion is shattered by a massive explosion that rocks the shanty town. Kyo stares in terror as the flames reflect in his wide, disbelieving eyes. Outside, Zeha's thugs systematically set the slum ablaze under his gleeful supervision. The Slum King's face contorts with rage, promising a fatal punishment for Michio's defiance. Zeha watches with sadistic pleasure as his men carry out his brutal orders. The mother and son can only watch in horror as their world is engulfed in chaos. The boy's mind struggles to comprehend the sudden, senseless violence. Michio's soldier instincts kick in as he desperately tries to secure their only exit. He quickly realizes they've been trapped, recognizing the tactical signs of a deadly ambush. His mind races, calculating at least 9 hostiles surrounding their position. With cold determination, he scans the small shack, desperate for an improvised weapon. He frantically searches the burning hovel, his soldier's mind assessing every object. Anything, even simple household items, could be turned into a tool for survival. Amidst the chaos, his gaze locks onto a small desk, a potential source of supplies. He snatches a heavy-looking sack, a grim idea forming in his tactical mind. Clutching his makeshift weapon, he prepares to face the inferno and the thugs outside. But instead of fighting, he suddenly turns and bolts, leaving Kyo behind in the burning shack. The boy screams in disbelief, unable to comprehend why his new hero is abandoning him. Michio smashes through the back wall, creating his own escape route from the fiery trap. He bursts through the flaming doorway, kicking aside the guards who were waiting to ambush him. Zeha and his men stare in disbelief, mocking Michio for walking right into their trap. With a furious roar, the Slum King orders his thugs to close in and finish the job. Unfazed, Michio stands his ground, a lone figure encircled by armed hostiles and raging fire. His glowing eyes lock onto Zeha as he calmly questions the purpose of this elaborate attack. The Slum King flashes a broken-toothed grin, finding the question amusingly obvious. Seething with rage, Zeha lists Michio's transgressions, from defiance to simply angering him. His fury crescendos as he sentences Michio to the ultimate punishment for the humiliation he suffered. Michio coolly accepts the challenge, understanding that this is now a fight to the death. His eyes narrow with lethal intent as he promises to completely annihilate the threat before him. Zeha scoffs at the threat, his eyes glowing with murderous amusement. Nearby, Kyo and his mother struggle to breathe, watching the confrontation with terror. The boy can only watch in fear as Michio kneels before the armed gang. Michio remains in a low, ready stance, clutching his makeshift weapon. With a cold, determined gaze, he silently signals for Kyo to flee at the first opportunity. The boy understands the plan, his expression hardening with resolve. One of Zeha's men charges forward, certain that their target has no way out. Michio's hand tightens, crushing the contents of the sack into a dense, heavy projectile. The thug lunges with a knife, ready to deliver the final blow. In a blur of motion, Michio swings the sack, delivering a stunning blow to the charging attacker. Zeha and Kyo stare in disbelief, their shock echoing across the fiery slum. The Slum King furiously demands an explanation as Michio stands over the fallen thug. The narrative reveals the name of his improvised weapon, a simple but effective blackjack. A flashback shows its construction, a humble sack filled with stones, a classic improvised tool. When swung with momentum, it delivers a blow with enough force to shatter bone. Despite its simple design, Michio unleashes its terrifying power with practiced ease. Undeterred, the rest of Zeha's men swarm forward, their knives glinting in the firelight. He moves like a whirlwind, the blackjack becoming a lethal extension of his will. Each swing connects with brutal precision, a tool designed specifically for incapacitating a human target. Zeha can only watch in horrified rage as his gang is systematically dismantled. A well-aimed strike leaves another thug reeling in agony, his vision compromised. In moments, the battlefield is cleared, leaving only the slum's king to face Mikio alone. Zeha's bravado evaporates, replaced by pure, unadulterated terror at the impossible sight. Fueled by humiliation and rage, the slum king makes one last, desperate charge. But his wild attack is met with a calm, calculated defense, the improvised weapon easily deflecting the blade. The force of the block shatters Zeha's grip, sending a jolt of pain up his arm. His knife falls uselessly to the dirt, a symbol of his broken authority. Disarmed and defeated, the once feared tyrant can only kneel before his conqueror. He glares up, his expression a mixture of disbelief and seething hatred. The Slum King's reign has ended, but his thirst for revenge is far from quenched. Michio's glowing eyes promise a final, merciless judgment for the terrified Slum King. The once feared tyrant now begs for his life, his bravado completely shattered. But Michio raises his weapon, preparing to explain his simple philosophy on survival. For a soldier, any threat to his life must be permanently neutralized. Zeha's face contorts in terror, realizing that his fate is sealed. Just as he prepares to deliver the final blow, Kyo desperately grabs him, trying to halt the execution. The boy pleads with him, insisting that taking a life is wrong, no matter the reason. Michio pauses, the boy's words momentarily breaking his cold, combat-focused mindset. Seizing the opportunity, Zeha scrambles away, fleeing for his life. Michio watches him go with clear annoyance, his final strike interrupted by the boy's plea. Kyo desperately clings to Michio, trying to stop him from delivering a final lethal blow. Instead of striking down, Michio channels his frustration into a powerful, spinning throw. He hurls the blackjack like a missile, narrowly missing the fleeing Zeha and shattering a wooden post. The Slum King looks back in terror, the splintered wood a stark reminder of his near-fatal encounter. Michio looks down at the boy, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face as he confirms he intentionally missed. They watch as the defeated thugs scatter into the slum, leaving a trail of chaos behind them. Kyo collapses in relief, thankful that Michio chose to show mercy at the last second. The soldier internally scoffs at the boy's naivety, knowing that sparing an enemy is a mistake. Later that night, under a crescent moon, the scene shifts to an imposing, isolated warehouse. Inside, a defeated Zeha pleads with a new, more dangerous figure to enact his revenge on Michio. Zeha frantically recounts his defeat, calling Michio an insane madman for his fighting style. He pleads his case to a new, more imposing figure, seeking retribution for his humiliation. But his plea is answered with a brutal punch, a swift and unexpected betrayal. The man coldly lights a cigarette, mocking the Slum King for being defeated by a mere minor. His eyes glow with sadistic glee as he prepares to deliver a harsh lesson in failure. The man promises a punishment far worse than anything Zeha has ever experienced. The scene cuts away as the brutal punishment is carried out with chilling efficiency. He stands over the fallen Slum King, his bloodied knuckles a testament to his absolute authority. In a display of casual dominance, he lets his dog clean the evidence from his hand. Now intrigued by Michio's reputation, the new boss decides this upstart is worth his personal attention. Back at the slum, the aftermath of Zeha's attack leaves a trail of smoldering destruction under the moonlight. Taking refuge in another shack, Michio tends to his gear while Kyo complains about their grim new reality. The boy stares out the window, heartbroken that the home he worked so hard to build is now gone. He watches the ruins of his former life, feeling utterly hopeless about their future. His mother, weak but resolute, asks Michio if they can truly impose on his hospitality. Michio agrees without hesitation, but makes it clear that this arrangement is strictly a business transaction. In exchange for shelter, he demands a full intelligence briefing on the island's entire operation. The boy shivers, intimidated by the cold, calculating nature of this new Michio. Kyo's fear turns to frustration as he confronts Michio, demanding to be treated like a friend, not a stranger. He questions how the amnesia could have so drastically altered his friend's entire personality. Michio looks down, his expression unreadable as he processes the boy's emotional plea. He internally admits the boy has a point, recalling his former life as a soldier. A vivid flashback reminds him of his betrayal and execution at the hands of his own allies. He realizes his death was no accident, but a conspiracy orchestrated by someone in high command. Fueled by this memory, he begins a grueling training regimen, vowing to escape the island. His eyes burn with a new purpose, to hunt down and eliminate every traitor responsible for his demise. The next day, he begins his intense physical conditioning, determined to rebuild his strength. He holds a perfect handstand, his breathing controlled as he focuses his mind and body. With a grunt of effort, he begins a series of demanding handstand push-ups, starting his count. He pushes through the pain, each repetition a step towards reclaiming his former power. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing he must rebuild his entire physique from the ground up. His intense training is suddenly interrupted by an urgent shout from behind. From his upside-down perspective, he sees the young boy Kyo rushing towards him. Michio rights himself, recognizing the boy who inadvertently started the fight with Zeha. A quick flashback confirms Kyo was the one who threw him under the bus during that first confrontation. The boy frantically warns him that he's about to be late for his shift at the mine. The mention of the mine piques the soldier's interest, a new plan forming in his mind. He sees this forced labor as the perfect chance to gather crucial intel on the island's command structure. Down in the cavernous underground mine, a foreman barks orders at the assembled workers. Michio stands among the grim-faced miners, his bandaged hands and cold gaze setting him apart. Michio glances back, noticing the other miners are visibly on edge. He quickly identifies a group of armed men as the remnants of Zeha's gang. Their confrontation is interrupted by a foreman making an urgent announcement. The foreman reveals that Zeha, the supervisor of Team G, is no longer in charge. He bluntly declares that Zeha is dead, shocking the miners but not Michio. The foreman then prepares to name the defeated Slum King's replacement. He points directly at a terrified miner, singling out number 8 from Team G for the role. The chosen man points to himself in utter disbelief, unable to process the sudden promotion. The scene shifts as a pickaxe strikes stone, signaling the start of their grueling labor. The narrative explains the miners are forced to work long, punishing hours in the dark tunnels. The narrative confirms the mine is a place of pure, unforgiving exploitation. A foreman berates a worker for being too slow, with Michio observing from the background. The foreman delivers a brutal blow, punishing the miner for falling behind. The worker grits his teeth in pain, a harsh reminder of the mine's rules. He notes that this brutal enforcement is the same across all the other teams. Suddenly, the newly appointed supervisor, Masa, intervenes with a promise of no violence. The punished miner looks up with tearful gratitude at his new, kinder leader. Masa then approaches another exhausted worker, kindly suggesting he take a rest. Michio watches the scene unfold, his analytical gaze taking in this new dynamic. However, one of the other foremen erupts in fury, enraged by Masa's lenient approach. The furious foreman delivers a harsh kick, accusing Masa of being too lenient with the workers. He cracks his knuckles with a sneer, declaring his hatred for weakness and offering to teach Masa a lesson. The new supervisor recoils in terror, completely intimidated by the aggressive foreman. Just as the foreman moves in, a pickaxe slams into the ground, narrowly missing his foot. The foreman jumps back in shock, demanding to know who dared to interfere. Michio stands calmly, claiming his hand simply slipped while holding the tool. He offers a cold, unconvincing apology, his defiant gaze saying otherwise. The foreman's rage now shifts to Michio, demanding to know what his problem is. Michio closes the distance, his icy expression making it clear who he thinks really needs to be disciplined. The foreman's anger turns to sadistic glee, welcoming the unexpected challenge with a wide, menacing grin. The foreman recoils in shock, completely unprepared for Michio's cold defiance. Suddenly, a new imposing figure emerges, his body glowing as he eagerly welcomes the fight. His eyes burn with excitement as he declares his intention to join the confrontation. The other miners panic, recognizing the newcomer as Kusanagi and fearing for the foreman's safety. The once aggressive foreman immediately surrenders, frantically insisting he would never dare to fight Kusanagi. Kusanagi scoffs in disappointment, annoyed that his chance for a brawl has been ruined. He turns his fury on the foreman, deciding to punish him for his cowardice instead. With a single devastating punch, he sends the foreman flying, ending the confrontation instantly. The other miners stare in disbelief, stunned that their aggressive foreman was defeated in one hit. Kyo watches from the sidelines, completely awestruck by Kusanagi's incredible display of power. Michio's analytical gaze reveals he sees more than just raw power in the attack. He realizes Kusanagi's victory wasn't just brute force, but a precise strike to a vital point. Kusanagi turns his attention to the crowd, eagerly searching for his next opponent. His menacing grin locks onto Michio, directly challenging him to a fight. Michio calmly refuses, stating he only fights with proper cause, much to Masa's horror. The name Michio sparks a flash of recognition in Kusanagi's glowing eyes. With a roar of excitement, Kusanagi lunges, revealing he's been eager to meet the man who defeated Zeiha. Unfazed, Michio raises his bandaged fists, preparing to meet the challenge head-on. The two fighters rush towards each other as the other miners scatter in anticipation of the clash. Their fists meet in a thunderous impact, a true test of strength and skill. The onlookers watch in terror, certain that Michio is about to be overwhelmed by the flurry of punches. Kusanagi unleashes a furious barrage of blows, but Michio manages to hold his ground. Michio analyzes the attacks, noting their incredible speed and weight. He recognizes the precision behind the assault, acknowledging Kusanagi's top-tier skill. Yet his analytical gaze spots a critical flaw in his opponent's form. The soldier identifies the opening created by Kusanagi's wide, telegraphed swings. Seizing the moment, Michio pivots on his heel, preparing to launch a counterattack. He effortlessly slips under the powerful swing, closing the distance in an instant. Kusanagi's eyes widen in shock as he realizes his mistake, met by Michio's cold, glowing stare. With perfect timing, he drives a powerful counterpunch directly into Kusanagi's jaw. The onlookers stare in utter disbelief, their minds refusing to process that Michio actually struck the mine's champion. However, the sheer force of the impact sends Michio skidding across the ground, his body still too weak for such an exchange. Kusanagi flashes a predatory grin, impressed by the sting of the unexpected counterattack. His battle lust ignites as he enthusiastically invites Michio to continue their brutal brawl. Suddenly, a panicked shout cuts through the tension as a foreman desperately tries to stop the fight. His attempt to restore order is met with cold indifference from the two focused combatants. In an instant, every miner in the vicinity drops to the ground, pressing their heads to the dirt in a show of total fear. Their terror is explained as a well-dressed man, identified as Director Akichi, walks into the cavern. The director moves through the sea of bowed heads, his oppressive aura making it clear who holds the real power here. He stops, flanked by his enforcers, and adjusts his glasses with a look of severe irritation at the disturbance. The man is introduced as Akechi, the mining director, a figure of absolute authority. Michio immediately identifies Akechi as the true power behind the entire operation. Akechi ignores Michio, his cold gaze falling directly on the brawler, Kusanagi. Kusanagi's battle lust instantly vanishes, replaced by visible irritation. The director scolds Kusanagi, reminding him not to damage valuable assets over petty squabbles. He subtly threatens to report the incident to an even higher authority, the blood-packed Marquis. The mention of this name clearly unnerves the powerful fighter, his bravado faltering. Kusanagi quickly changes his tune, trying to pass off the brutal brawl as simple educational guidance. Akechi scoffs at the excuse, openly mocking Kusanagi's intelligence and calling him a simple meathead. The brawler grits his teeth in silent fury, humiliated by the director's public dressing down. Akechi coldly addresses the cowering miners, questioning their idleness. He orders the terrified men to keep working relentlessly, every single moment. The director's eyes glow as he delivers a chilling ultimatum: work or be discarded. Later, during a brief lunch break, Michio stares at his pathetic ration. He notes the meal is cold and tasteless, barely enough to be considered food. Nearby, another miner laments the stark difference between their rations and the supervisor's meals. The scene shows a supervisor greedily devouring a much more substantial lunch. A close-up reveals a lavish bento box, a feast compared to what the workers receive. Overcome with hunger, one of the workers dramatically collapses on the ground. Suddenly, a hand extends a much better meal towards Michio, offering him a share. The new supervisor Masa approaches Michio, offering him his own superior meal. Michio glances over, his expression cold and unreadable. He bluntly rejects the food, leaving Masa stunned by the refusal. The soldier explains his policy. He refuses to be indebted to anyone. Masa sighs, insisting that the gesture isn't about creating a debt. He reveals it's his way of atoning for dragging Michio into his earlier trouble. A flashback shows him cowardly blaming Michio during the first encounter with Zeiha. Overcome with guilt, he passionately insists that Michio accept the meal as an apology. Michio's icy demeanor finally cracks, a hint of a smile touching his lips. As he takes the meal, Michio dryly notes that this is a high price to pay for a single lie. He takes a bite, acknowledging that a single piece of chicken is a fair price for the apology. Michio declares their debt settled, leaving Masa speechless at this unexpected turn. The new supervisor is immediately surrounded by the desperate, hungry gazes of his fellow miners. Two workers grab him, aggressively begging for a share of the supervisor's meal. Masa reluctantly agrees to share, earning him praise as the best boss they've ever had. Their brief moment of camaraderie is shattered by a furious foreman demanding they stop eating. Kusanagi's intimidating glare cuts through the group as he orders them all back to their posts. The narrative confirms the miners are treated like slaves, forced into endless physical labor. A stark statement reveals that the workers on this island have no human rights. An elderly miner is brutally struck from behind, a grim example of the mine's unforgiving rules. The elderly miner collapses to the ground, his body giving out from the brutal treatment. Michio rushes to the man's side, desperately trying to check his condition. But Kusanagi intervenes, coldly ordering Michio to get out of his way. Masa looks on with a mix of fear and confusion, unsure of the brawler's intentions. Kusanagi forcefully shoves Michio aside, taking control of the situation. He kneels and examines the old man, his expression turning grim as he assesses the situation. With a click of his tongue, the brawler confirms the grim reality of the miner's fate. Michio stares in horror, realizing the old man has succumbed to the mine's harsh conditions. Kusanagi callously orders the man's team to dispose of the body, treating it as just another task. Later, Masa stands with Michio, looking out at the grim final resting place for the island's workers. Masa breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by the casual cruelty of the mine. Michio offers a quiet word of caution, advising the new supervisor not to let his emotions consume him. But there's no time for grief, as a foreman immediately barks at them to get back to work. The old man's body is carried away, a stark reminder that on this island, death is just a minor inconvenience. The narrative confirms the grim truth. A human life here is considered completely disposable. Michio takes in this brutal lesson, his mind silently calculating his next move. Finally, a foreman rings a bell, its sound cutting through the dark tunnels. The shift is declared over, and the exhausted miners immediately drop their tools. Masa slumps to the ground, utterly drained from the physical and emotional toll of the day. He looks up to see Michio standing tall, seemingly unfazed by the brutal labor. Masa stares in disbelief, wondering how Michio can still be standing after the grueling shift. The new supervisor's perception shifts again, questioning if his friend was always this resilient. Their brief respite is cut short as a foreman barks at them to stop dawdling. The narrative reveals the first step of their post-shift humiliation, a forced disrobing. They are then marched up a long flight of stairs, exposed and exhausted under the guard's watch. Michio's gaze remains cold and defiant, a stark contrast to the despair around him. This degrading ritual is explained as a crude but effective measure to prevent ore theft. Each worker is subjected to an invasive and thorough body search by the guards. The narrative confirms that only after this complete violation are they permitted to proceed. Finally, the miners are allowed to return to the surface, their grueling day officially over. A foreman hands Michio a single bill and a piece of bread, his payment for a day's labor. The soldier calculates the paltry sum, a mere 1,000 yen for 16 hours of back-breaking work. In stark contrast, Masa bows gratefully, accepting his own meager pay with overwhelming thanks. The new supervisor clutches the bill with pure joy, finding a moment of happiness in the small reward. Michio watches in disbelief, unable to comprehend Masa's contentment with such blatant exploitation. Suddenly, a loud commotion interrupts their walk back, catching the miners' attention. The other workers erupt in a frenzy of excitement, their faces lighting up with anticipation. Two vendors cheerfully announce the beginning of the Smiley Sale, a special event for the exhausted men. A kind-faced vendor declares it's Mining Appreciation Day, offering a rare discount on all goods. Michio's analytical gaze narrows, finding the idea of an appreciation day on this hellish island deeply suspicious. While Michio remains still, the other miners, led by Masa, stampede towards the vendors in a desperate frenzy. Masa eagerly places his order for beer and chips, handing over his hard-earned cash to the smiling vendor. The vendor throws in extra snacks out of pity, and Masa is overcome with gratitude for the small act of kindness. The rest of the workers swarm the stalls, shouting their orders in a desperate bid for a moment of relief. A miner cracks open a can of beer, the simple act representing a rare moment of freedom. He chugs the drink, savoring the taste after a long day of grueling labor. Masa sits back with a look of pure bliss, the simple pleasures momentarily erasing the day's hardships. Another miner scoffs, calling anyone who skips this indulgence a fool for missing out. He proudly goes all in, spending his entire day's wage on a brief, glorious feast. Michio watches from a distance as the exploited workers find temporary happiness in their meager rewards. His analytical mind finds the sudden shift from slave drivers to cheerful vendors deeply suspicious. Meanwhile, Masa watches the others with a hint of longing, wishing he could join the celebration. Kyo turns to the new supervisor, questioning why he isn't partaking in the rare festivities. Masa admits his desire to join in but reveals a conflicting, more important goal is holding him back. He explains with quiet resolve that he's saving every yen until he can afford the Paraiso Pass. The name piques Michio's interest, but Masa is stunned that his friend doesn't remember this crucial detail. Masa insists it was the first thing they were told upon their arrival on the island. A flashback reveals their first day, being addressed by their captors and declared slaves crawling in the dirt. The memory continues, outlining their grim fate of endless work and starvation rations. The new arrivals listen in horror, realizing their lives would now be worth less than livestock. The flashback reveals the only way out: save up 1 million yen to buy their freedom. Their captor presents the Paraiso Pass, a golden ticket that guarantees escape from the island. The desperate miners cling to this sliver of hope, a chance to escape their living nightmare. Masa's face contorts with fierce resolve, vowing to earn his freedom no matter the cost. Back in the present, however, Masa sips his beer with a look of pure, contradictory bliss. He explains to Michio that this was the moment he made his fateful decision. He recalls his vow to endure any hardship, no matter how brutal the conditions. His eyes burn with remembered determination as he swore not to spend a single yen. Michio finally understands why the workers don't rebel against their horrific conditions. The narrative reveals the island's control method, dangling 2 specific carrots in front of them. The first carrot is the Paraiso Pass, a golden ticket representing the false promise of hope. The second is the fleeting pleasure of small luxuries, designed to make the workers forget their goal. The mine's management, from the director to the vendors, are all complicit in this manipulative system. Michio sees through the entire charade, his expression filled with contempt for the calculated cruelty. He glances at his own meager earnings, a plan already forming in his tactical mind. He walks up to Masa and bluntly asks how much money he's saved for his freedom. The new supervisor panics, defensively refusing to share such dangerous information. Michio closes the distance, reassuring the terrified man that his secret is safe with him. He then holds out his own day's wages, offering the money to the stunned supervisor. The soldier declares his true intention. He wants to help Masa buy his way off the island. Michio calculates that Masa has 60,000 yen left to save for his freedom pass. He adds his own wages to the total, estimating they can reach the goal in just 30 days. The new supervisor is stunned, questioning why Michio would go to such lengths to help him. Michio dismisses the question, revealing that his actions are purely for his own benefit. He then pivots the conversation, demanding intel on any potential escape points from the island. Masa scoffs at the naive question, insisting such an escape route is impossible. He gestures to the treacherous landscape, telling Michio to see the reality of their prison. The supervisor explains that the entire island is a natural fortress of sheer, impassable cliffs. But Michio's sharp eyes spot something, and he points to a specific section of the rock face. Without warning, he begins to climb down, mocking the idea of laws in this hellhole as Masa panics. His climb is interrupted by a strange whirring sound that puts him on high alert. Below him, a camouflaged drone rises from the darkness, revealing the island's high-tech security. The soldier's eyes widen as he spots the machine gun mounted beneath its chassis. He instantly recognizes the hardware, confirming that military-grade drones patrol the cliffs. This automated guard is the true reason no one has ever escaped the island's perimeter. Its sensors lock onto his position, identifying him as a target to be neutralized. Michio digs his fingers into the rock, his body straining as he braces for an attack. From the cliff's edge, Masa screams in terror, completely bewildered by the sudden appearance of the machine. He watches helplessly as the drone corners Michio, trapping him against the sheer rock face. With no other option, Michio roars at the terrified supervisor to flee for his life. Masa stares back in disbelief, unable to comprehend Michio's command to flee. A projectile narrowly misses his head, the close call leaving him stunned. He looks back in confusion, a wisp of smoke rising from the splintered tree behind him. Michio lands and grabs the terrified supervisor, forcing them both into a desperate sprint. The drone unleashes a hail of bullets, its red sensor glowing as it opens fire. They frantically weave through the barrage, the ground erupting around them with each impact. The automated weapon lays down a wide cone of suppressive fire, cutting off their escape routes. Michio glances back, his tactical mind analyzing the relentless pursuit of the machine. He instantly identifies the drone's model, recognizing it as a military-grade SG Nemesis 1.0. The drone's targeting system locks onto them, its programming issuing a simple, deadly command, eliminate. The narrative explains the drone's simple, terrifying protocol. It will chase any perceived threat to the ends of the earth. Known as the Mad Pursuer, this weapon is so infamous that even hardened soldiers tremble at its name. Masa panics, completely bewildered by the sudden appearance of a military-grade killing machine. Michio remains focused, his expression grim as he dodges the relentless hail of bullets. His eyes flash with insight as he abruptly changes direction, formulating a new plan on the fly. He grabs the terrified supervisor, forcing him towards what Masa believes is a dead end. Ignoring his companion's terror, Michio plunges headfirst into the dense, dark forest. They frantically weave through the trees, using the chaotic terrain as their only cover. The drone's red optical sensors glow menacingly as it adjusts its aim, preparing to fire again. It swoops down from above, relentlessly tracking their every move through the narrow forest path. The drone expertly navigates the dense trees, its rotors slicing through the air. Michio confirms his suspicion. The drone's specialized tracking is far too advanced to outrun. They continue their desperate sprint as the machine's glowing eye looms behind them. The soldier shouts back, urging the lagging supervisor to pick up the pace. But Masa collapses from exhaustion, certain he can't go on despite Michio's warning. Michio realizes that at this rate, their capture is inevitable. His desperate search for a solution is interrupted by the sight of a rat scurrying up a tree. A sudden flash of inspiration hits him, a new risky plan forming in his mind. He locks onto the small creature, identifying it as the key to their survival. In a flash, Michio snatches the unsuspecting rat, putting his desperate gambit into motion. Michio shouts a new command, telling the terrified supervisor to freeze on his count. Masa panics, convinced this insane plan will get them both riddled with bullets. Ignoring his pleas, Michio begins his countdown from 3, his expression grim. The supervisor begs him to rethink the suicidal strategy, his face a mask of pure terror. Just then, the drone's machine gun unleashes a deafening volley of fire. They sprint for their lives as the ground erupts around them in a hail of bullets. The relentless machine continues its assault, pinning them down with a terrifying barrage. As the count hits 1, Masa screams in despair, certain this is the end. Michio offers the small creature a silent apology, his eyes cold with resolve. He then hurls the rat into the air, using it as a desperate living decoy. The drone's cannon swivels, its programming momentarily confused by the new, fast-moving object. Its optical sensors immediately begin a target reevaluation, scanning the chaotic scene. The machine's logic shifts, identifying the scurrying rat as a new, more immediate threat. Its targeting system locks onto the small creature, issuing a cold, automated command to neutralize. The drone unleashes a precise burst, instantly eliminating the unfortunate decoy. With the distraction gone, the machine's glowing red eye turns back to its original targets. Michio and Masa stand frozen, the brief reprieve from the drone's attack now over. The soldier's gambit only bought them a moment, as the relentless pursuer hovers menacingly behind him. Their horror intensifies as a swarm of identical drones emerges from the darkness, completely surrounding them. The whirring of rotors fills the air as the automated squadron closes in, leaving them with no escape. A drone hovers inches from Masa's face, its whirring rotors a terrifying promise of what's to come. The machine presses its cold metal barrel against the supervisor's temple, freezing him with fear. Michio remains unnervingly calm, his tactical mind racing as another drone turns its attention to him. The drone's weapon now aims directly at the soldier, a bead of sweat his only sign of tension. Its barrel presses against his chin, a final, silent threat before the inevitable. A single drop of sweat falls from his face, a slow-motion moment in the deadly standoff. The droplet lands on a tiny sprout, which emits a faint, mysterious glow upon contact. Suddenly, the drone's targeting laser deactivates and the machine pulls back from its attack. The entire squadron of drones turns and flies away, leaving the two men completely bewildered. From the drone's perspective, a message flashes confirming its mission is complete, despite leaving them alive. Masa collapses against a tree, pointing in terror at where the drones had been. He gasps for air, tears streaming down his face as he processes his near-death experience. Michio, however, remains composed, taking a moment to collect his thoughts after the ordeal. The terrified supervisor demands to know what kind of monstrous machine just attacked them. Helping him up, the soldier reveals it was a military drone designed for tracking and indiscriminate elimination. A flashback shows the chaotic aftermath of its deployment, unable to distinguish between friend or foe. He explains it was a defective model, long since decommissioned from official warfare. Masa grabs his arm, stunned by Michio's detailed knowledge of the deadly weapon. The soldier's mind races, recalling the drone's infamous nickname and its internationally banned status. Standing amidst the glowing flora, he realizes this island is far more sinister than he ever imagined. He suddenly wonders if this entire operation is connected to the Aldemir military he once served.